Okay, girl.
Mic check.
Tell your mom to go live. Yeah. It is. I'm like, are we at a tournament? Dang. Hey, how do I? Is this what they see, or should I flip it? I don't know how to flip it.
That's what they see.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we?
Hmm?
How do we do this? Cam. Camera. Facing. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I just drive. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, this sun is moving up quick.
Oh my God, y'all! My little thing is blocking my camera. I'm like so sorry. Oh. Yep.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Janae. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. And thank you all for coming out today. We really appreciate everyone who is here and who is here to speak. And before we get started, I just want to tell you all a little bit why we are here. Fan Freedom Action Now is hosting this press conference, and they are a radical, queer, Black, and Southeast Asian feminist organization dedicated to creating change for the most impacted communities in Wisconsin. FAN acknowledges the ongoing struggle for liberation and the need to shift material conditions that impact all of our daily lives. These are the same conditions that Dane County DA Ozanne chooses to ignore time and time again. In 2018, Ozanne claimed to recognize the abuse of victims, and to come together as a collective to solve our problems. His actions do not back up his words. In 2015, Tony Robinson was murdered by Matt Kenny, and Ozanne still refuses to indict his murderer. Ozanne denied Kinyera Gadsden, a victim and survivor of gender-based violence. She denied her the right to defend herself, and instead he prosecuted her and jailed her. And Ozanne, he arrested Jessica Williams, an advocate and mother for Freedom Inc., for nonviolently defending herself and survivors of patriarchal violence. Here's a little bit more about Jessica Williams. Jessica Williams is an advocate for Black women and survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, and a lead organizer for the Show Kinyera Love campaign. She was arrested on May 6, 2022 for advocating for Kinyera at her sentencing. And she also organizes a lot for mothers on Mother's Day, and she wasn't able to this Mother's Day because she was in jail on trumped up charges because of Ozanne. Kinyera Gadsden, a Black queer woman who was arrested in 2018, charged and tried for defending herself from her abuser. She was charged with first-degree intentional homicide and sentenced to 13 years in prison and 11 years probation. That is too long for someone defending herself. And Jessica is still targeted for defending Kinyera and other survivors of gender-based violence. Today, we have some speakers here with us who will talk a little bit more about Jessica's case and how we can all come together and solve this issue. First, I would like to introduce Bianca, the Youth Justice Director from Freedom Inc. Woo! Okay. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
I know this is a press conference, but we can say it louder than that. All power to the people. All power to the people means. All power to the people means. Right, thank you. That means that we get to hold our elected officials accountable for using their power to harm our community, right? When we say all power to the people, that means that we get to we have the power to remove our elected officials from office when they use their power to harm Black women. Amen. Y'all can clap for that. DA Ozanne continues to use and abuse his power as district attorney to harm Black women and to harm Black children. Most recently, he took my friend and comrade Jessica Williams for simply standing up against state violence. No other reason other than standing up against state violence. Ozanne says that he cares about victims and survivors, but I'm here to tell you that that does not include Black women and that does not include Black children. I want to remind us that in 2015, Ozanne prosecuted survivor Sierra Finkley for defending herself and her children from their attacker. I want to remind us that Ozanne tried to lock up a Black mother for fleeing from the state after she learned that her partner was abusing her children. I want to remind us that Ozanne allowed Matt Kinney, who murdered Tony Robinson, say his name, murdered Tony Robinson. He allowed Matt Kinney to walk the street. He allowed Matt Kinney to get away with murder. And he allowed Tony Robinson's family to suffer with no police accountability for killing Black children. Yet he wants to lock up Black mothers for protecting theirs. Amen. I heard from Jessica today, and she told me to tell y'all that she appreciates all of the love and support from the community. She's so happy to be at home with her child, but she also wants to remind us that it's not just about her. And we can't stop fighting until all survivors are free from that jail right there. So we're not going to stop until Ozanne formally drops all the charges against Jessica, until he resigns from office, and until all survivors are free. Love and power, y'all. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Freedom Inc. Next, we have the co-executive director of the Rape Crisis Center, Dana Pelabon.
Black women have had a disproportionate responsibility to speak to social justice issues. Our advocacy puts us in positions to be critical of systems that have historically and continually caused harm to Black people. In addition, our community has conducted studies like the Race to Equity report that clearly calls out the disproportionate arrest and incarceration of Black folks in Dane County. While our community is calling for criminal justice reform and alternatives to incarceration, to arrest and detain Jessica Williams for using her words to highlight inequities clearly flies in the face of what our community and our studies are advocating for. I am calling for all of the charges against Jessica Williams to be dropped, to preserve our rights to freedom of speech and honor our community's call for justice. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Dana. Thank you for that message. Next, we have State Representative Francesca Hong.
Woo!
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Francesca Hong, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. We are here today to demand justice for Jessica Williams and Kenyara Gatson. We are here to demand justice for Black women who are overwhelmingly having to endure and bear the burden of our systemic inequities and violent carceral systems. The right to free speech, the right to self-defense, the right to dignity are human rights. We cannot continue to harm Black women. We cannot continue to harm our community. Those in power, we need to do the right thing. Taking Jessica as a political prisoner is not justice. It is oppression, and we will not stand for it. And to all survivors of violence, we see you, your personhood, and your power. Domestic violence is a symptom of our failed carceral systems, where violent offenders remain protected by the state and those who speak out sanctioned then harmed. When the state refuses to protect women like Jessica and Kenyara, we must rally as a community, as we are doing now, to demand justice, especially when our systems of government fail us. We must rally as elected leaders to do the right thing. I call on District Attorney Ozanne to do the right thing. Drop all charges against Jessica Williams. Because if you do not, this will not keep us safe. Not surveillance, not carceral systems, not state-sanctioned violence. So instead of incarcerations, politicians and government officials must invest in our communities. We are here to demand justice for Jessica Williams and Kenyara Gatson. I ask Ozanne, do the right thing.
Thank you, Francesca. Next, we have President from the ACLU, William Sultan. Actually, we're going to circle back to the ACLU. Next, we have Ananda from the former school board, she's a former school board member. Ananda, thank you. In the month of spring, the month of life, love, and mating, we were still cold from the remainder of another Wisconsin winter. Many of us also felt an internal cold, one that petrifies us from inside, making it harder to find air and to exhale fully. We begin our spring in cold weather and chilled political news. They are coming for our eggs, I thought. Women who create and produce eggs every month with no help of assistance of anyone else are now being set up and to an invasive surveillance threat. We try to understand the threat to our bodies, to our ability to create life as it was for someone else to control. Some said, we knew it was coming. I didn't. I didn't because I could not believe that the country that have become my refugee place, the place where I could understand, seek, and demand safety for my body is now coming after my body and the bodies of every woman. This morning, I picked out a book, a children's book, that said, if you understand the world, you can change it to whatever you want it to be, by my comrade Dakota Irby. Understand the world to change the world. As we try to find ourselves in this dire politicized landscape, as our bodies experience another political threat, I received the news on Mother's Day, the day we celebrate the lives we cared, birthed, raised. On that day, I was gloating on my daughter's gift of beautiful flowers. On that day, I received that news that my friend, my neighbor, someone that I admired deeply, was not home. She was not caring for her beautiful baby. She was not rejoicing her mother. She was not sending messages to all the women in her life that supported her being the mother she is. Jessica Williams sat in prison for close to 100 hours. She was away from her life and the life that existed outside of her. Jessica was extracted from her community, from her work, from her life as we knew. Jessica Williams was being targeted because she dared to protect the rights of other women. She was being targeted because she dared to advocate, because she dared to use her voice and her body for justice and liberation. Jessica Williams dared to be free and to free others. Her release from prison is not freedom. It's an evidence that she and Black women are not free, that we are not free. And the moment we dare to dream freedom, the moment we dare to free others, we are targeted, prosecuted, and jailed. So help me understand this world, this nation, the nation of the free and the progressive city of Madison. Of course, they say everyone has a right to protest, that we have a right to protest, that Jessica has a right to protest, that protesting is not a crime. This country and this city has made clear that the crime is in the color of the skin, not what you do or who you are. The melanin race is probable cause of being a criminal. Wanting control of our bodies is a crime. Advocating for freedom is a crime. Demanding justice is a crime. Dreaming of freedom in this community and in this country is a crime deeply rooted in the colonial foundation. So pause for a minute. Where were you when Jessica waited for freedom? How are you? And we are contributing to the decriminalization of women, to Black women. Madison, I beg you to answer this question. D.A. Ozanne, I beg you to answer this question. How much longer are we waiting to see Black women free? How much longer are we waiting to see Black children free? How much longer are we waiting to see Jessica free? How much longer are we waiting to be together in freedom, in community spaces where we all belong and be whatever we want to be? Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Tammy from the Hmong American Women's Association.
So as an organization that has served hundreds and thousands of survivors, I know firsthand the important role that an advocate holds in supporting survivors. As advocates, we are entrusted with providing not only support, but we believe them even when the state does not, and we continue to see them in their fullest dignity and organize and support their safety as much as we can. And so you can imagine the deep anger we felt when we heard about what had happened to Jessica Williams on May 6th, when she was suddenly taken into police custody upon entering the courthouse to serve as an advocate to Kenyara. It was an incredible injustice to not only Jessica for not having done anything wrong, but it was an injustice to Kenyara too, who did not have her advocate there. And in this moment, we are frustrated and we are angry that we see this kind of state violence impacting not only survivors, but advocates as well. So we stand here amongst our friends, our communities, our allies, and our comrades to demand that DA Ozanne drop all charges against Jessica.
Thank you. Next, we have Tegan from End Abuse.
Statewide coalition of domestic violence. We have a deep understanding of the role the criminal legal system plays in perpetuating violence against victims and survivors, especially those who feel forced to use violence in self-defense. We consistently see this disproportionately impacting those who are already marginalized by race, gender, and class, as is reflected in the fact that Wisconsin incarcerates Black adults at the highest rate in this nation. Interpersonal violence takes many forms and is often connected to broader issues we address through our policy and system work. We elevate the vocal advocacy of Freedom Inc. and Jessica Williams in surrounding Kenyara Gadsden. Their advocacy highlighted how Kenyara's identities as a Black queer woman impacted her access to safety and successfully garnered attention despite consistent erasure in media for cases like Kenyara's. The timing and manner in which Jessica was arrested and held highlights a disturbing demonstration of the ways the criminal legal system and its actors attempting to wield power against Black women who refuse to allow the system to criminalize them for surviving. We stand with Freedom Inc. in demanding that all charges against Jessica be dropped. We cannot separate individual cases like Kenyara's or Jessica's from their context in their historical and current systemic oppression. We continue to uplift organizations like Freedom Inc., who are working to name systemic racism and actively uproot these systems of oppression in our communities. If we are truly to serve all survivors of violence, we need advocates like Jessica to be able to freely name and act against inequity. We stand with Freedom Inc. in demanding that all Black women and girls are safe in our communities, that all survivors of violence are safe in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next, we have Vanessa McDowell from the YWCA. I'm sorry, CEO Vanessa McDowell.
Yes.
All right. Let me just say, YWCA Madison, we stand with our Freedom Inc. family. Jessica was one of ours too. She worked with us for years as well, and so I just wanted to acknowledge that and say we are here with you, standing with you, and demanding that these charges be dropped. So I'm speaking specifically to you, DA Ozanne, that this is ridiculous. It's interesting. It was on my heart to put up this billboard in South Madison, and it simply says, protect Black women, period. Trust Black women, period. And support Black women, period. So today, that's what I'm asking. That is what I am seeking for us to do. And of course, as we see behind me, to defend Black women. That billboard was specifically for my Black sisters who often go unseen, always questioned, never trusted, never believed, not supported, even sometimes by our very own. The unseen tears that we shed and the weight that we carry, we all know too well. So I just want to say to Jessica specifically, sis, I see you. I hope you see me too. We got to keep shining. We got to keep grinding. We got to keep being great. We got to keep speaking up. And we got to keep being ourselves.
I chose the word specifically protect, trust, and support in order for the first letters of the words PTS. Many of us experience post-traumatic stress because of all of the trauma that we experience from these systems, right? And so we have these things, we encounter these things because one, we're not protected, one, we're not trusted, and one, we're not supported. So instead of us continuing in that vein, I'm asking that we would protect Black women, period, that we would trust Black women, period, and that we would support Black women, period, and that we would defend Black women, period.
Thank you, thank you. Next, we'll Ali Muldrow to the podium, please. Ali. Oh.
How y'all doing? This is Frida Hallelujah's first speech, and it's really hot. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fact that I'm a survivor of domestic violence who was met with incarceration versus assistance when I needed help the most. And I think that it's important to say that as the president of the school board, as the co-executive of the Gay Straight Alliance for Safe Schools, that dropping the charges is not enough. We're talking about 3 days of somebody's life. We're talking about a misallocation of public resources. We live in a state that spends more money on incarceration than anything else. There is nothing we are more vested in than the incarceration of other human beings. We would rather put people in cages than in college. We would rather put people in cages than in classrooms. And Jessica Williams and her children and me and my children and y'all and your children deserve better. So this isn't just about what we are saying, this is about what we are doing. Today is an opportunity to stand together and do this work like every other day. And so many of the people I'm looking at right now are folks who are in the streets organizing, folks who are making sure that we have the resources we need to fight this fight. The history of incarcerating Black women unjustly and for their activism in this country is as old as this country. And if we want to do something that we've never done before, we have to stick together. If we want to do something that we've never done before, we have to tell stories that make us uncomfortable. We have to tell stories that are harsh and complicated and filled with people who are not often heard. So I'm asking for justice for Jessica Williams, which is not dropping charges. It is reforming a system and taking the resources that we spend on incarceration and spending them on things that we as a community need. So when I say incarceration, y'all say education. Incarceration. Education. Incarceration. Education. Thank y'all for letting me speak. I'm Ali Muldrow. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Thank you so much, Freedom Inc.
Thank you so much, Ali. Next, we have from the ACLU, William Sultan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Sultan, and I am the president of the board of directors of the ACLU of Wisconsin and its foundation. I normally don't get told that I'm too quiet, but I appreciate it. As a lawyer in the state, I'd like to call on the other lawyers of the state to defend Black women. We need more attorneys in the state to step up and stop the kind of nonsense that happened to Miss Williams. Not only should she not be charged, but the district attorney's office should be held accountable for violating her constitutional rights. I want everyone here to know that the American Civil Liberties Union of Wisconsin is dedicated to protecting and defending your rights in court, including Black women. And as a leader of the State Bar of Wisconsin. I'm calling on other lawyers throughout the state to do the same thing. This is a problem that happens all over the state. It is alarming that it happened here in Madison. It's alarming that it happened inside of a courthouse, and it's alarming that the judicial system allowed that to happen. So we need to do something. I need all of you and all of your voices and all of your organizing to continue so that we can make real progress. And I want you all to know that you can contact the ACLU of Wisconsin at aclu.wi.org and for help and for defense. So please continue to do that. Thank you all for all of the hard work that you're doing. We would be worse off without you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Next, from the Wisconsin Coalition Against Sexual Assault, we have Ian.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Henderson. I'm the Policy and Systems Director at the Wisconsin Coalition Against Sexual Assault. We'd like to thank Freedom Inc. for inviting us to be part of this press conference today, and also thank them for all their work they do on behalf of survivors here in Dane County. We're pleased to stand here with Freedom Inc. today and appreciate their advocacy on behalf of Kenyera Gasson. Kenyera's case, along with the case of Crystal Kaiser, who is a victim of child sex trafficking promotion, are sadly just two examples of how the criminal legal system has historically punished survivors of violence, and in particular Black women and girls, for defending themselves. Black women and girls are disproportionately impacted by sexual violence and are more likely to be incarcerated for their responses to trauma and less likely to have access to healing and justice. The end result is the devaluing of Black life, as survivors like Kenyera and Crystal are only seen as aggressors, never as victims. And that's exactly why organizations like Freedom Inc. are so critical for the work they do primarily with Black, Indigenous, and people of color survivors of violence. However, we're also here today because of the reaction of the criminal legal system to Freedom Inc.'s advocacy. Jessica Williams, as you've heard, was arrested when she entered court on Friday and was held until Tuesday night, just under the maximum amount of time until she had to be formally charged in court. This represents an egregious abuse of power by District Attorney Ozanne. Sorry, hard to see in the sun. We support the work of organizations like Freedom Inc., who work with survivors on a daily basis. Thank you. We support the work of programs like Freedom Inc. and advocates who work on behalf of survivors across the state. And we are concerned about the message that this action sends to advocates and to victims who are faced with possibly being criminalized and punished for their role in working with survivors. That simply is not tenable. We stand here to demand that District Attorney Ozanne dismiss all the charges today, and we echo Freedom Inc.'s call to defend Black women. Thank you for including us today.
Thank you so much. Next, from the Hmong Family Strengthening Helpline, we have Giashia.
Hey y'all, can y'all hear me? Yeah! All right, so my name is Kia Shia. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Advocacy Program Director at the Black and Brown Women Power Coalition. We are one of the only coalitions statewide in Wisconsin that serves Black and Brown advocates. We give technical assistance to advocates all across Wisconsin. As an agency, we stand with Freedom Inc. to defend Black women, and just not Black women, but also Black girls and Black queer, trans, and intersex folks also. We are angry by the arrest of Jessica Williams, a Black victims advocate. Advocates like Jessica Williams defend Black women so that they can thrive in the communities and live a life violence-free. We know that more than 1 in 3 women are to experience rape, physical violence, or stalking in their lifetime. Organizations like Freedom Inc. and victims advocates like Jessica Williams are the cornerstone to ensuring that statewide victims and survivors are no more. So we are here to amplify the messages of Freedom Inc. Acts of the state violence should not and will not be tolerated. We demand that the DA Ozanne not only drops the charges, but resign. Resign today. Let's go. Defend Black women.
Thank you, thank you. And next from the Harambe Village doulas, we have Tia Murray.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Somebody once said that the Black woman is the most disrespected person in America. The Black woman is the most unprotected person in America. The Black woman is the most neglected person in America. Is this not a prime example of that very thing? Jessica, say her name.
Jessica.
Jessica is part of our village, and it takes a village. It's always Black women showing up and showing out. And she is a prime example of that very thing. So we are here in support of our village member. This is not new, y'all. The separation of Black mothers from their babies is nothing new. The targeted silence of Black and queer women, of Black activists, is nothing new. But I'm going to tell you something, DA Ozanne, you failed. Because we will not be silenced. We will continue to show up. There will be multiple Jessicas showing up. It takes a village. Protect Black women.
Thank you so much for that. Next, from PAVE, Promoting Awareness, Victim Empowerment, we have Arushi.
Hi, my name is Arushi and I'm from Promoting Awareness Victim Empowerment. We are a student organization at UW-Madison and we sort of work to end domestic violence, interpersonal violence through education and activism. And we stand in support of Freedom Inc. I just want to say that it should not be our jobs to be standing here right now in the searing heat telling our DA to do the bare minimum, which is respecting people's rights and not silencing Black women. And it should not be on us. In fact, people like him should be seeking our opinions. They should be seeking these conversations, and we should not be out here, but we are. And I just want to really say thank you for every single person who showed up, because there's power in numbers. And I'm really happy to be here in this community with all of you. And I just want to say that it's a pattern, not just at UW-Madison and in the city, but nationally, globally. And it is heartbreaking. And I really wish that we could change that. And I welcome people to come be in community with us to change that. And we demand the resignation of the DA. We demand him to resign and step down from his position, since he cannot even do his job properly. We deserve better representatives, and we deserve better people. Black women deserve better. So much better.
Thank you. Next from Outreach, we have Jill.
Thank you. Well, I don't have anything to say that anyone else hasn't said. We need to demand justice for all people who are incarcerated, full stop, but especially for survivors, and especially for survivors who don't have services that anyone else has privy to, And we were just talking about charges over there, what the charges are, what freedom of speech is, and blah, 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 blah. And none of that really matters when the point is cruelty, when the point is silencing, when the point is to take away a strong advocate who is desperately needed, because all of the systems surrounding us are failing. They're failing to support people. They're failing to support Black women for sure, since, someone else said, the beginning of this country, forever. So I just stand in solidarity as a survivor, as a queer person, who's trying to make spaces for other survivors when there aren't any spaces. They just don't exist because the funding is not there. As Ali pointed out, they have funding for police, they have funding to criminalize a Black woman for a vague threat, a vague threat, a vague threat. We're coming for you. Well, we are coming for you. We're here coming for you, Ozanne. We're here. We're coming for your office, for your job. Oh, well, Black women deserve justice. Black women deserve compassion. Survivors deserve compassion, not criminalization. All the charges will be dropped, and survivors deserve better. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Couple more speakers, y'all, and I just want to remind you, if you're coming up to the podium, please speak up. There's a lot of us here right now. We want to make sure everybody in the back can hear what y'all have to say. Next, we have Benji Ramirez from Centra Hispanio.
Y'all okay if we open up with some chants? Get some energy going. No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Ozanne must resign.
Yes!
Resign, Ozanne. This is incredulous. The attacks that the DA has perpetrated against our community have gone on for far too long. For far too long. There have been incessant attacks on our community since we were all young. We have all started in this struggle from a place of youth. Our youth are under attack, right? Our women are under attack. So we are here to say, not only drop the charges, not only resign, but to redistribute and to reallocate the resources that are being built, innocent systems being intentionally built to criminalize, brutalize, and exterminate Black and brown bodies. So we are here in solidarity. We are here because we know that when we speak together, when we act collectively, we are more powerful. There is a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we are here to say, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Y'all do it with me? El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. And like our last speaker said, we're coming for you, Ozanne. We're coming for you one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And next we have from the ACLU Student Alliance, Adrian Lampone.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Adrian. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the president of the ACLU Student Alliance at the University of Wisconsin, and I'm also the former chair of the student government there. It's horrifying and draconian that those who are working diligently, like Jessica, to prevent state violence and end state violence in our community continue to be arrested for their work. This is terrifying, and if Madison ever wants to be a progressive and free place, this repression needs to end. Jessica's arrest is a terrifying development for civil rights and organizing in Madison. For the hundreds of other people like her, probably thousands of people like her who are doing amazing work in Madison, like this is terrifying. And we need Jessica's work to continue and everyone else here. The DA might want to silence and stop this movement and this work, but he will fail. For queer people, for women, for people of color, for everyone, we cannot tolerate this. DA Ozanne, drop the charges against Jessica Williams, and justice for Jessica, justice for Kenyera Jackson, and defend Black women. Thank you, Freedom Inc. and Free Action Now.
Yes, yes. Justice for Kenyera Jackson. Yes. And lastly, we have from Freedom Action Now, Ananda.
Thank y'all all so much for coming out today. Y'all give a round of applause for yourselves. I know it's hot, but DA Ozanne got us even hotter. I know that's right. This is unacceptable. We demand that the charges against Jessica be dropped that the DA Ozanne be held accountable, that he immediately resign, and that the violence and terror that is consistently inflicted on Black women be stopped. All the victim advocate groups are here, and they agree that this is an egregious attack on Jessica's First Amendment rights. Thank you as well to the ACLU of Wisconsin for coming out to speak today, and thank you for agreeing that this case, a clear violation of First Amendment rights, be referred to the ACLU legal department for further investigation. We will not stand for this. We know the arrest of Jessica Williams was a tactical, retaliatory move to silence and punish Black women, but it didn't work, and it won't work. If it worked, I wouldn't be here saying that we all coming for you, DA. We are all coming for you. Thank you so much, Freedom Inc. and everyone who spoke today for holding it down. Really appreciate y'all. Much love to all of y'all. We're going to close us out with a couple of words, and then we'll get on with the rest of our day, y'all. We really appreciate y'all coming out.
Woo! Thank you all so much for coming out. As y'all can see from what the speakers have said, we have power together as a collective, and Ozanne should be ashamed of himself for what he allowed to happen to Jessica, to Kenyera, and Tony Robinson, and much more members of our community who need our support, who demand our support, and who deserve our support. And it is up to us, because they choose not to do their jobs. They leave it up to us to do their jobs. And if they're not going to do that, then get out. And I just want to reiterate and hope people are leaving today with these powerful words that everyone up here has said, that we have power together, and that, you know, anything that we do outside of here for Jessica, for Kenyera, reflects all of us and our morals and what we stand for. And so keeping that together and holding that together, we can have peace of mind. So be sure to take care of yourselves. It's hot. Drink some water. Stay hydrated. And thank you so much for coming out today.
Move a